In the year 680 CE, on the 10th day of Muharram, a small group led by Husayn ibn Ali faced the army of the Umayyad Caliph Yazid I on the plain of Karbala, in what is now southern Iraq. The numbers were deeply unequal. Husayn's group included family members, companions, and a small retinue, while the opposing force represented the power of a ruling empire. The battle itself was brief, but its meaning became immense. For many Muslims, Husayn's death was not simply a political defeat. It became a tragedy of conscience, loyalty, sacrifice, and resistance to injustice. To understand why Karbala became one of the most remembered events in Islamic history, we have to look first at the fragile political world that emerged after the death of the Prophet Muhammad. The decades before Karbala were marked by disputes over leadership in the Muslim community. After a period of early caliphs, Ali ibn Abi Talib, cousin and son-in-law of the Prophet Muhammad, became the fourth caliph. His rule was challenged, and after years of conflict, the Umayyad leader Muawiyah I established himself as caliph, ruling from Syria. Muawiyah's rule brought a powerful administrative center and a new dynasty, but it also left unresolved tensions. Many in Iraq, especially in the garrison city of Kufa, had supported Ali and remained attached to his family. This attachment was not only political. It carried deep emotional and religious meaning, because Ali's household was connected directly to the Prophet. A major turning point came when Muawiyah nominated his son Yazid as successor. This was controversial because it appeared to shift the caliphate toward hereditary monarchy. Several prominent figures refused to accept Yazid's claim automatically. Among them was Husayn ibn Ali, the son of Ali and Fatima, and the grandson of the Prophet Muhammad. For those who looked to the Prophet's family as a moral guide, Husayn held exceptional status. Yazid's demand for allegiance was therefore not just a formal political request. It asked Husayn to publicly recognize Yazid's legitimacy. Husayn refused to give that allegiance and instead left Medina for Mecca, a sacred city where he could avoid immediate pressure while considering what to do next. While Husayn was in Mecca, messages began arriving from Kufa. The people of Kufa had a complicated history. They had been a center of Ali's caliphate, and many opposed the Syria-based Umayyad leadership. In their letters, they invited Husayn to come to Iraq and lead them against Umayyad rule. These invitations mattered because they suggested that Husayn would not be isolated if he traveled east. Kufa appeared to offer a base of support, a population ready to pledge loyalty, and a chance to challenge Yazid's authority. But letters and real political power are not the same. The Umayyad governor, Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad, moved to control Kufa and intimidate potential supporters before Husayn could arrive. Husayn set out toward Kufa with a small group, often described as around 70 men along with family members and close companions. This was not an army prepared for conquest. It was a caravan moving through a dangerous political landscape, relying on promises of support that were becoming uncertain. As Husayn approached Iraq, reports grew troubling. The situation in Kufa had changed. Supporters were being pressured, leaders arrested, and public enthusiasm suppressed by the governor's forces. Husayn's journey became increasingly precarious. Ahead lay a city that had invited him, but between him and that city stood the organized machinery of Umayyad power. Before reaching Kufa, Husayn's caravan was intercepted by a force of about 1,000 soldiers. This force blocked his path and prevented him from entering the city. Husayn was not allowed to return freely or continue toward the support he had been promised. Instead, he was pushed northward until he encamped on the plain of Karbala on the 2nd of October, 680 CE. The name Karbala would later become inseparable from grief and remembrance. At the time, it was the place where Husayn's choices narrowed. He was far from the sanctuary of Mecca, cut off from Kufa, and surrounded by forces acting under the authority of Yazid's governor. Soon after Husayn's group reached Karbala, a larger Umayyad force arrived, traditionally numbered at around 4,000. The standoff was not simply a clash of soldiers waiting for battle. There were negotiations. Husayn sought a way out that would avoid bloodshed, but the demand placed before him was severe. He had to submit to the authority of Ubayd Allah ibn Ziyad, the governor acting for Yazid. Husayn refused this condition. To him and to his followers, submission under coercion would have meant endorsing a political order they believed was unjust. The impasse hardened. What had begun as a journey toward Kufa became a confrontation over legitimacy, conscience, and obedience. On the 10th of Muharram, known as Ashura, the confrontation turned into battle. Husayn's group was vastly outnumbered, and the result was devastating. Husayn was killed, along with most of his male relatives and companions. The surviving family members, including women and children, were taken prisoner. The loss struck deeply because those killed were not anonymous rebels in a distant conflict. They included members of the Prophet's family and loyal companions who had chosen to remain with Husayn despite the odds. The battle's military outcome was clear, but its moral meaning would be contested, remembered, and retold for centuries. Karbala became a story about what a person should do when power demands submission at the cost of principle. The immediate aftermath of Karbala helped ignite wider unrest. The killing of Husayn intensified opposition to Umayyad rule and contributed to the period known as the Second Fitna, a major civil conflict in the early Islamic world. In Iraq, groups emerged seeking to avenge Husayn's death. One was the Tawabin, or penitents, who felt remorse for not supporting him when he needed them. Another movement was led by Mukhtar al-Thaqafi, who rallied supporters in the name of vengeance for Husayn and the rights of the Prophet's family. These reactions show that Karbala was not seen as an isolated battlefield event. It became a political wound that reshaped loyalties and deepened divisions. Over time, Karbala became central to the development of Shi'a identity. The supporters of Ali, known as Shi'at Ali, had existed as a political and religious tendency before the battle. But Husayn's suffering and death gave that identity a powerful collective memory. In Shi'a thought, Husayn came to symbolize sacrifice for truth, justice, and faithfulness to divine guidance. His stand was remembered not because he won in worldly terms, but because he refused to legitimize what he regarded as injustice. This transformed defeat into moral victory. The story of Karbala offered a language for understanding oppression, martyrdom, loyalty, and the responsibility to resist falsehood even when success appears impossible. The memory of Karbala is especially visible during Muharram. For Shi'a Muslims, the first 10 days of the month are a period of mourning, ending on Ashura. Communities gather for sermons, elegies, processions, and rituals of grief. Many beat their chests in mourning, and in some places more intense forms of self-flagellation have appeared, though practices vary widely and are debated among scholars and communities. These rituals are not only acts of sadness. They are ways of keeping Husayn's story alive, teaching moral ideals, and connecting each generation to the tragedy. Through poetry, public gatherings, and remembrance, Karbala becomes not just past history, but a living ethical lesson. Although Karbala holds a uniquely central place in Shi'a tradition, Husayn is also honored widely by Sunni Muslims, who regard him and his companions as martyrs and view the event as a grave historical tragedy. Across Islamic history, the battle has been recounted in literature, sermons, devotional gatherings, and historical writing. Its power lies in the starkness of the situation, a small group facing overwhelming force, a demand for allegiance, and a refusal to surrender conscience. The Battle of Karbala lasted only a short time on the battlefield, but its memory has endured for more than 13 centuries. It remains one of the defining stories through which Muslims have reflected on justice, leadership, sacrifice, and the cost of standing for what one believes is right. If you found this helpful, please like this video and subscribe for more explainers.